45 seconds of logos, and like this rock, I'm going to skip.
But Jeremy, you literally started this video with 23 seconds on a sponsor and then the next 14 seconds on the intro. How do you not see the irony?
Zooming in on a person in childbirth that you thought was being murdered because of their scream cliche. In the industry, they call this the doom and gloom to womb zoom.
Is this really a cliche? I don't remember any other movie doing this.
I'm not sure which is the more unrealistic part of Hollywood's idea of childbirth, that the babies come out clean, or that the moms are able to sit up like this seconds after relocating 63% of their insides to their outsides.
Asking for realism in a movie where lots of magical things happen.
He thinks he's hiding, but he is super clearly, definitely, obviously visible here. Like, goddamn.
This doesn't matter because the guards wouldn't think to look into the closet because they intend to shoot Caspian, whom they think is still in the bed.
Also, why are you even watching? And why is Professor Bumblebore even letting you? Oh, hey, I know a group of armed men have a raging murder boner for me in this room right now, but isn't the pillow fluff pretty when it flies around like that?
Caspian didn't know that they wanted to kill him, so he just wanted to see what would happen. Also, is the sin that Caspian is watching, or is it that Dr. Cornelius is letting him? These are two completely different sins. Also, Jeremy says boner.
He pulls the sword out briefly to make sure it's a sword and not a fake sword? A handle only? A wooden sword? What is he checking for here?
Credit to the comments on this video, but he's checking to see if the sword is sharp enough because some of them might still be a work in progress.
9 armed guards at the execution. 2 guys with pointy sticks by the city exit. Makes sense.
You're manipulating the scene. What actually happened is that the guards weren't prepared for Caspian to leave because they thought that he would be killed in his bedroom, so these two were just trying to stop him.
These opening titles chase on in the dark for some time.
Says the guy who didn't start the actual video until like 40 seconds in.
Then, after overcoming their fear of the haunted woods, the soldiers are undone by a small river.
You mean just one guy?
Feels like magic. Quick, everyone hold hands. I'm not holding your hand.
What the f*** is going on? Look, I don't care if I found a fantasy world in a wardrobe a year ago. If I'm underground and the ceiling starts caving in, I'm finding the nearest exit. There's a different possible outcome where an earthquake happens and the 4 Pevensey kids are found dead in a subway tunnel holding hands with goofy grins on their faces that seem to say, we thought it was magic.
This is like the 3rd time you are flat out lying to your audience. This is what Lucy was referring to when she said it feels like magic.
Ow! Quiet, Lou. Something pinched me.
Hey, stop pulling! I'm not touching you.
But all just... What is that? Feels like magic. Quick, everyone hold hands.
Also, sure as coincidental, they were just complaining about how long it's been since they'd been to Narnia.
Really? That's a sin? Especially considering it's been a year since they left Narnia. You really think this is the first time they've talked about this?
And the director said, let's have Lucy eat an apple so the audience will think of the Garden of Eden, even though the whole point of the apple was that it ruined the garden. But f*** it, am I right? And himself becomes the asshole.
No, I'm pretty sure it was just you who thought about the Garden of Eden. Listen, I know that the Chronicles of Narnia have plenty of biblical allegories and references, but this ain't one of them, especially considering the magician's nephew literally recreates that story.
Ever since the death of Caspian the Ninth.
Oh good, we're gonna get our exposition at a council meeting. 2 of the most exciting things ever captured on film.
I'm not sure what the problem is. The movie is giving us some extra backstory to give this movie more context. And how else do you think this information should have been delivered?
Our beloved Caspian was abducted by Narnians.
That's racist.
You do realize that's the point, right? Right?
He tears his shirt to make a torch, asks for matches, and his brother produces a flashlight, and that is why this movie is 2.5 hours long.
Sinning the funniest scene in the whole movie.
No one will be seated during the National Treasure portion of the Narnia movie.
Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that isn't a sin of the movie cliche.
Can't believe it. It's all still here.
You can't believe it. Pretend that you are me, dude, then you will know disbelief.
Are you sinning yourself? Because it sounds like you are.
You were older then.
As opposed to hundreds of years later, when you're younger.
I wish that I knew what I know now when I was younger.
Cringe.
I think it's time we found out what's going on.
Only just now?
Yes, they need to find out where they were and how much was left. I feel like they might need their weapons before doing this.
Man, Timothy Oliphant's nephew really looks like Timothy Oliphant.
Jeremy spends time randomly comparing Ben Barnes to Timothy Oliphant, and that is why this video is almost 18 minutes long.
For the second time in this movie, this idiot hides in plain sight.
So this one is a little more valid than the last time you said this, but again, neither Truffle Hunter nor Knickerbrick even think to look in that direction. I mean, it does kind of look like Knickerbrick might be able to see him, but the camera is right next to him, not literally from his eyes, so I could buy him not being able to see Caspian.
I told you we should have killed him when we had the chance. You know why we can't.
Because the movie is named after him?
I'm guessing you're saying this because the movie doesn't provide an explanation as for why they kept him alive. However, they do explain it. Caspian blew Susan's horn, summoning the Pevensey kids, and Truffle Hunter is able to figure out that he knows about them, and thus is the key in helping them free Narnia from the Telmarines.
Do I have to sit on your head again?
Nice. I didn't realize CS actually used some of my fanfic in this story. The Centaurs should be along shortly, and then things get really interesting.
Yep. The second Narnia video in a row where Jeremy Scott brings up his sexual fantasies, even though no one is watching this video for that.
Don't you know what this is?
You mean the horn or the talking badger? Look, if I wake up in the home of a talking badger, it's going to take me a bit more than soup and hospitality to just drop into normal conversation mode.
One sin for you skipping the scene that explains why Truffle Hunter wanted to keep Caspian alive. Also, Caspian already knows about the talking animals. He was simply surprised to see they were still alive. Not to mention, they were talking for a little bit before Truffle Hunter asked about the horn.
This is easily prevented if Lucy isn't an idiot, or if Tyrion explains the rules about how not all animals are English-speaking Narnians.
Why is Lucy an idiot here? She didn't know that some animals don't talk anymore, so she assumed that this bear had a human personality and ran away when she realized it didn't. And Trumpkin does explain after this incident.
He was wild. I don't think he could talk at all.
It's not like you gave him a shot, though.
How would they have given him a shot? He was literally about to kill Lucy!
He's the one who blew the horn.
Then let him bring it forward.
Don't mind us centaurs just hanging out in the woods until the fighting stops so we can dramatically reveal ourselves when the script calls for it.
Why is that the assumption you make, instead of they simply just now arrived here?
Also, these centaurs show up in the forest to save the hay. Did Harry Potter rip this shit off or what?
What? In the first sin, you say these centaurs showed up after the battle was over, and then in the second sin, you say that they showed up to save them? Were you trying to force a Harry Potter reference in here, or what?
What's the problem? In the gray, they just jumped this shit.
Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that isn't a sin of the movie cliche.
Shall we list the things the Telmarines have taken?
Yes, please, list them all. Anything to make this movie even longer.
Oh, freedom.
Oh, you were serious?
Dude, these two sins are literally saying the same thing. Stop padding the sin count.
Ava, the Lord of Victory, and Alambil, the Lady of Peace. If you will lead us, then my sons and I offer you our swords.
In less than 2 minutes, this crowd went from an angry mob ready to kill him to pledging full fealty unto death. It's gotta be a record even for movies.
Well, you did supposedly fall asleep while watching this scene, so I'm not sure I'm willing to trust you on this. Not to mention, Caspian gave a short speech that tells the Narnians that he wants to help them, something you completely skipped. How does anybody trust this guy to watch movies when he can't even notice the most basic things?
Hammering, sawing, plank carrying, excitement.
Jeremy points things out on the screen cliche.
If you cut out all the walking in this movie, it would be an hour shorter. A reasonable hour and a half instead of this bloated fucking nonsense at 2.5 hours like it's goddamn Saving Private Ryan or some Jesus.
If you cut a lot of the nonsense and actually paid attention to anything that happened in this movie, this video would be like 5 minutes long. See, I can do that too.
They're all sleeping on the grass as though ants and ticks and spiders don't exist, but they fucking do, man. They fucking do.
Well, what would you suggest they do then? Oh, you don't have an answer? Okay.
Wandering off on your own in the woods when you are this shy of a sensible amount of years old.
I just wanted to point out that this is a dream sequence.
Things never happen the same way twice, dear one.
Ironic, coming from a Disney movie lion who is also a king.
Yeah, I get it. You're crapping on the live-action Lion King. But how is that a sin of Prince Caspian?
It may not be what you are used to, but it is defensible.
Is he talking about the military use of this cave or the paper-thin plot of this movie?
How is this movie's plot paper thin? And even if it is, why is that a sin? Mad Max Fury Road is the best movie of the 2010s, and you can describe that movie's plot in just 2 words. So does this really matter? Also, there is no sin added after this. Granted, I'm not asking him to pad the sin count, but this is padding the runtime, something he's been complaining this movie is doing.
That's great, but when you're done expositing what this place is, how do you put that fire out? Do you have to wait until the oil burns completely? And then is it some poor bastard's job to haul buckets of oil back in here to refill this shit?
Why do they have to put this fire out? It's not going to burn the place down or anything. They'll just wait for it to go out. It's that simple.
Miraz's men and war machines are on their way.
War machines? Talking woodland creatures? Movies that depend on watching other movies to get it? Is this the MCU?
Hey, at least this movie only requires you to have seen only 1 movie to follow the story instead of like 20. And yes, that's another. Jeremy makes a pop.
Eagles, man. It's always the fucking Eagles. What's that? You say they're griffins? Well, I don't care, because I like making my Eagles sin, so I'm going to sin the Eagles. Then change to calling them griffins after.
Okay, so this was a sin I missed in the first video, being that Jeremy called the griffins Eagles, so I'll try and rectify that by adding a sin here. And here's another sin for you acknowledging this and basically saying screw you to your audience. And this video has over 15,000 likes.
This is a terrible helmet.
That helmet doesn't cover the entire back of his head, so Nick a Brick just hit there.
So, how much of this movie will be CGI? Roughly 40%, sir. Can we make it more?
These are mice. How else would you put them in the movie?
Yep, the same mouse that easily disarmed and incapacitated 12 full-size soldiers in the forest a bit ago is now worried about a single sleeping house cat, because no movie with a mouse can resist Tom and Jerrying for a bit.
He doesn't look that worried to me. He's probably more worried about the fact that it might blow their cover. And they go and tie him up anyway.
This movie has never owned a cat.
Yes, I'm a mouse.
Yeah! Did that mouse just slit that guy's throat in a Disney movie? I mean, the only difference between this and Game of Thrones are the camera angles, and this probably has a better finish.
Okay, this movie was rated PG, and is trying to have a darker and more violent tone. Of course it's gonna have something like this. Not to mention, Disney has been pretty dark before in their G-rated movies. Have you seen Hunchback?
Let's talk about the hero's plan. They send a dozen or so people into the enemy castle via Griffin airdrop, which somehow causes no noise nor raises any alarms. Then they sneak undetected to the would-be king's bedroom and try to take him hostage? Do they think these Termitians hate them because of the leader dick or because of the racism? Free the old man teacher guy, that makes sense, but this take the uncle by sword point makes all of the no sense.
That's because you're not paying attention to what's happening. Freeing Cornelius was Caspian's plan, not Peter's. And the only reason Caspian went to Miraz is because Cornelius implied that Miraz killed his father. And in this scene, Peter even tells him that he was supposed to be at the gatehouse.
Put the sword down, Caspian.
Oh, look, the plan involved not checking your 9 o'clock or having peripheral vision ever.
And Caspian is also consumed by his emotions to find out what happened to his father. You really think he would be thinking clearly here?
What are you doing? Supposed to be in the gatehouse.
Good point. So then why are you here?
Dude, is this like the 20th time you've shown a clip that clearly contradicts an earlier sin, but you don't care enough to delete it?
For a movie that is aimed at families and can't show blood, there sure is a lot of maiming, decapitating, and disemboweling happening.
The only thing I see in this clip is maiming.
Seriously, what is Peter's plan here? Bum rush a super castle with minimal forces? Does that ever work out?
The movie itself acknowledges that Peter's plan is flawed because he gets tired of waiting for Aslan, so he tries to rush in to defeat the Telmarines. Why is it you always ask for characters to be completely perfect when stories wouldn't be compelling if they were?
Meanwhile, just outside the town, the Griffins are apparently hanging around on a smoke break, debating whether Capaldi or Smith was the better doctor and why Tennant was better than both of them. One of them mentions McGann, and they all laugh and laugh and laugh.
You already mentioned the fact that the Griffins aren't helping that much, so you are once again padding the sin count with another pop culture reference.
We need to retreat now!
It was your idea to attack this castle, Peter. Are you now saying you agree with... Okay, we're retreating. But I'm going to bring this shit up again, and don't you think I won't?
Yes, because Peter realizes that they can't win, so they need to regroup and figure out another plan.
Peter only realizes his mistake was costly when literal troops under his command get trapped behind enemy lines, because Peter is an asshole.
Wait, so you do realize that Peter made a mistake? Then what were those other sins about? And he realizes his mistake was costly in that sin where you criticize him for retreating. This is simply adding more.
Oh no, this character we barely know is injured or possibly dead. However will I contain my lack of emotion?
I'm pretty sure it's just you who doesn't care about Trumpkin.
Not only does this troop-pledging, crown-taking montage go on for all the some time, it also must have taken a while in real movie time. Did the Caspian crew just hang out and do nothing during the months it took to amass this army?
This army was already gathered long before this, considering they've been building that bridge for a while now.
One drop of Adam's blood, and you free me. Then I am yours, my king.
You know what this already overly long sequel needed? A lengthy forced White Witch cameo that makes no sense with the rest of the story. The writers of this movie, probably.
Nope, the screenwriters didn't write this scene, C.S. Lewis did. And why does this scene make no sense? You don't even elaborate on that. So I think you just wanted to send Tilda Swinton making a cameo.
Dude, your sister's hot. Dude, I know.
Susan is 13 years old.
A slow enemy march on a cave fortress? Helm's Deep, anyone? Listen, I know it's common knowledge that C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien were good friends, but has anyone ever suggested they bet each other that they could write the same series of books and change just enough detail to fool the rest of the world? Because I'm pretty sure that's what they did.
Okay, so I will give credit that you do give more context on what you're specifically saying when comparing this to Lord of the Rings, but I'll still add a sin because I'm pretty sure this kind of thing is common in fantasy books or films.
Why are you standing here watching instead of panicking and yelling to arms?
Because they're gonna come up with a much smarter plan right after this scene.
You are in good hands.
Or hooves.
CinemaSins.
Sinning yourself again.
Is this part of the plan seriously? Hope Lucy's dream was real and ride off in a hurry to find Aslan to come save the day? Did the kids not have anything to learn about themselves? Is there anything they can do to save the day except go get Whisker Jesus?
I don't think they needed to think about Lucy's dream. Also, I will bring up again that this has allegories to the Bible, and one of the biggest themes there is that man relied too much on themselves when they should have put their trust in God, and there are plenty of stories there to prove that. Here they try to stop Miraz themselves, but failed. Clearly, Aslan is their only hope.
Katniss finally gets a chance to kick some ass.
Not true. Susan has kicked plenty of butt before, specifically at the castle invasion. You even played a clip from that and sent it.
Throwing arrows. Deus ex Caspiana.
Stop misusing Deus ex Machina.
And now the action goes into this low frame rate slow motion. There are more editing choices made to hide the action in this movie than to highlight it.
Are you sure about that? Because I just rewatched A Duel and I didn't really notice that much of it. Granted, it's not edited perfectly, but it's not as bad as you say it is.
Bloodless wounds that result in bloodless swords. Somewhere between Kill Bill and Narnia lies the truth, but this ain't it.
Wait a minute. Aren't you the same guy who criticized this movie for being too violent?
Man, this movie is f***ing violent.
See?
Also, thanks for stopping pelting us just in time for us to do some hero shot. You guys are the best.
No, they didn't stop pelting those boulders. You can clearly see them still firing in the running shot.
The movie is content to subtly imitate Lord of the Rings for the first 2 hours and then is like, f*** it, we're doing Ents and the Loud Water Deluge in the same 15-minute stretch and you can't stop us.
How is this anything like Lord of the Rings? Is there a scene in those movies that I missed where a giant water god picks up a bridge to kill the enemy? What?
This movie is long. However long you think of when you conceive of long, this movie is longer than that. It's long squared.
This is like the 10th time you've mentioned the long run time. If you understand that people don't like sitting in their seats for too long, why are you doing it then?
Can't play it, but this movie ends with a Regina Spektor song, which feels incongruous to this movie for 2 reasons. 1, the time period. 2, it's actually good.
Not sitting this super awkward romance between Caspian and Susan. Seriously, as much as I love this movie, this might be the worst part.
This movie has more endings than The Return of the King. Hey! God damn it!
No it doesn't. Are you done with the Lord of the Rings references? Yes, we know that the two fantasies are similar. Stop pointing it out.